Three, two, one. Hello, this is WM Siegel, and I'm here today to talk to you about one of my buddies. Hey there. This is Palamander. I made this puppet. Pretty sweet. Out of the cardboard inserts to Tom's shoes, uh, googly eyes, and then I put hearts in them, and felt, and glue, and his brains are a little complicated. Anywho, Palamander is a salamander and everyone's friend. And the reason I'm bringing my friend on is because I want to tell you about the Puddle Walk. And the Puddle Walk is a children's book that I'm working on. It'll be short pictures, for young kids. But it's about a little girl named Elise Bird, Byrd, and she lives with her great aunt Nerdabird. And one day, she's taking care of her aunt. That's what she does. Takes care of her great aunt. Doesn't have many friends her age. And she went out back and saw an orange tail go into a puddle. She said, "What's going on here?" Runs over, jumps in the puddle, falls through. She comes out at the other end in a place called the Puddle Farm. And a lot of stuff there. And so the reason she could fall through the puddle was because when Palamander goes through a puddle, there's a window of time where you can follow her. And the idea being that she travels to a place with the intention of bringing someone to the Puddle Farm that maybe needs it. And Elise, she just felt kind of alone, and that's what brought her to the Puddle Farm. And there she meets a hot air balloon repairman named Adil, Adyl, and he's from a world where the way he is on the Puddle Farm, he's very heavy, differences in gravity and stuff like that. And so he has balloons all around his belt to hold him a little above the ground. And he fixes all the balloons, or they're called balloons, Bloons. And the balloons, they travel around the Puddle Farm, keeping an eye on things, making sure everyone's okay, reporting to Palamander. There's a lot of little critters in there. There's Moose, Moos, who's a very small mouse, and is best friends with Palamander, and sort of like a little aide, maybe a squire or something like that. Like he's the squire, she's the knight or something. Palamander runs little errands. And then there's a snail-looking creature called Parflesnool. And when you're at the Puddle Farm, all writing disappears within a day. So if you write something, it's not forever. Even a note or a book, or so, there's no books, there's no letters. And the signs they disappear every day. And you have visitors coming in from all over the universe. So it's important that they know how to get to Adil, to the balloons, so that they can go on their walk. And the walk that they have in the Puddle Farm is what ultimately teaches each individual their lesson, what they need. Elise learns that she's not alone. She has her aunt, and a neighbor, Ducky, best friend. And, even people feel alone, surrounded by people sometimes, And it took going to the Puddle Farm for her to learn that lesson. But anyway, Parflesnool, when you come into the Puddle Farm, there's trails everywhere and signs telling you to go this way or that way. Parful Snool has to repaint them every day. So this little snail eats all these berries, and the berries leak out of his skin, and he just walks a snail trail, and it'll paint the arrow. So he has a little feed bag around his face, like a horse. Um, but you gotta keep him full of berries so he can do the signs. And it would be Moose telling him which path to go to and do the signs at the behest of Palamander, so that the visitors can get what they need. There's another character named Bumblefloof, which is a sort of a bird. It's a feathered animal, so it's like a ball, but just feathers sticking out every direction. No wings, no appendages, just a head, a ball, and feathers. And it frantically moves the feathers so that Bumblefloof can do a controlled fall, but can't take off and definitely cannot fly, but never crashes. So it's controlled descent. Bumblefloof is a little bit helpful, more informational for Elise. He stays in the balloon that she travels around in. There's also the Powell twins. It's two saw-whet owls. It's a type of owl, very small, and they love to play hide and seek, but they both like to hide. So one of the balloons had Adel paint a giant eyeball on it, and it just hangs out where they live and looks for them, so that they feel sought after. They were brought by Palamander to the Puddle Farm for that reason, to get what they needed. And it's about filling in the cracks. Where there's a need, you fill it. And Palamander is traveling around the Puddle Farm and the universe, finding people that are missing something, bringing them to the Puddle Farm, helping them find that thing. And then they get brought to this giant lighthouse called the No-Hoos. And the No-Hoos then sends you back home. There's also another character I really like named Intaglio. And Intaglio is a sort of like a woodpecker, but no wings, 2 legs. And so it's just like... And what Intaglio does is, if someone is on the Puddle Farm for too long, they won't be able to hold all the memories, right? Adel's been there a very long time, and he's doing important work for the people that visit, but he's not from the Puddle Farm, and he's living longer than he ever would have. And so somewhere these memories need to leave his mind so that he can take on new memories to help the people. And so what Intaglio does is out of this really special sap from a tree that I called the carnelian tree, after carnelian, like an agate, and the carnelian tree drips this red cinnamon droplets, and they fall and they dry before they hit the ground, and they go king, 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 like glass. And Moose collects them, brings them to Intaglio. It's part of his daily chores. And Intaglio, by the way, the word, it's engraving, it's but they use that phrase for, in archaeology, intaglios, just small engravings, If you look up Intaglio, Rome, you'll see a lot of small agate things with carvings in them, typically things related to astrology and religion or the cults, be it Dionysus or something, this or that or the other, Mithra. These things were all from Bactria to Crete. This was a habit of people to engrave on stone, our culture. It's what we do. so we don't forget. And Intaglio, this little bird, fulfills that role on the Puddle Farm for Adel and anyone else who's spending an extended period of time there, so that their memories can be saved. So Moose gathers these carnelian crystals, brings them to Intaglio, and then Adel sits down and says, well, I guess I could forget this thing. I don't need this for my work here. So he'll tell the story. And Intaglio will into the little bead images, symbols, not words, symbols that illustrate the story. And Adel takes them, puts them in his pouch, and if he ever wants to remember that story, dissolves it in hot water, and the smell is like cinnamon, and he can drink it, and he'll remember. And that cinnamon smell, it's a smell that Elise remembers from her great aunt Nerda Bird, this tea that she drinks, right? So that's part of the story where she's finding out, she's hearing Intaglio explain what he does, and it occurs to her that maybe her great aunt Nerda has been to this place, because she drinks a tea and it smells, and she kind of goes off into another place when she drinks it, and then we'll always be happy and tell a story that at least I'd never heard before. So it adds an element of mystery to it. There's more to the story. It hasn't been completed yet. It's just hard. You have so many creative ideas, to try to wrangle them all. But this one is very important to me. I'll do another video talking about it and stuff. And I want it to become a puppet show. I would love for the story to. A lot of its elements are specific to my town where I live, or city, I guess. I live not a town, and I'll change the names of things to be similar. I'd really like for kids here to have almost like their own fairy tale or their own story. They can say, man, this children's book from when I was a kid, it's like, so they say I get this thing done, and I can, get it done. Years and years go by, and they go to college, and they're talking to some friend, and they're like, did you read this book when you were a kid, The Puddle? They'll be like, man, what the hell are you talking about? But it'll be something that, because I would love for this to not go elsewhere. What if it became a slightly different story with slightly different place names and markers and character names if the story were published in Chicago? You make it, give kids a fairy tale about their home and make it special. I've got other ideas for it, but it's a story. It's going to be cool, I think. But I wanted to show Palamander. Hello. Palamander's got a yellow tongue. Oh, I guess a little hole up there, but it is kind of neat. The back part, it's like balsa wood. I had to get in there. I used to make models and stuff. I'm a tinkerer, as you'll see. I make a lot of stuff. But Palamander says, bye-bye. All right, everybody. One last thing. There's a podcast called The Neighborhood Listen with Paul F. Tompkins and Nicole Parker. It's brilliant. It's so amazing. So just go listen to it. The Neighborhood Listen. And as always, if you have an extra $5,000 laying around, send it my way at WM Siegel on Venmo. Peace.